I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co., and this is our 2024 holiday gift guide. Board game related, that is. This is still board game related. And speaking of which, let me give you the criteria for this list. This is a 2024 gift guide. It's going to have a mix of old and new things. It will be slightly biased towards the new things because, well, first of all, many of you might have the old things, and also because it's the news. It would be the same gift guide every year if I didn't bias it slightly towards the new things. So there's a slight bias towards newer things. But more specifically, the audience is the important part. Who is the audience for this gift guide? Well, you, in a manner of speaking, you're the audience for the person who might be purchasing these gifts, not necessarily the audience for the person who's going to be getting these gifts. My goal with this gift guide was to pick things that I think, first of all, gamers would enjoy. I enjoy every single thing on this table, with an asterisk we'll get to, but I enjoy everything on this table. But then more importantly, the goal is to be able to get things that you might be able to gift towards people in your life. People in your life who have other interests that aren't just board games. Some of these are specifically things that might resonate with one particular audience or another based on the things that they already like. Most of these games, not all of them, are meant to specifically be more accessible. They'll be a little bit more gateway friendly because, again, I'm imagining that you're buying this for somebody who might be someone who plays games, but it isn't necessarily their main passion. It's your main passion, and this is your excuse to try to go ahead and infiltrate a drop more into the various things they like. Which is a good time to make the point. Don't buy board games for people who won't want board games. You might love board games. I love board games. And if any of these do make a good gift, great. That's the point. That's the whole entire point of this video. But if this is just an attempt to manage to subtly get a board game onto someone's, into someone's hands, who may not want a board game in their hands, it's okay to just buy someone an Ember mug once upon a time. I do love Ember mugs. Not sponsored. I've tried, but I do love Ember mugs. Anyways, let's go ahead and starting off. This is roughly in order, like from least to most, but take it with a grain of salt because a lot of these are less about my own personal likes and more about the potential target audience. To that end, I'll start with my first one, which will give you an idea of how I structure this, which is The Gang. The Gang over here from Cosmos is a game that will work well with anyone who has played poker. That's the whole point of why this is appealing, why this is on this list, because this is a game, plays 3 to 6 players, and it's basically targeting that person who doesn't mind a poker hand here and there. The Gang is cooperative poker. You're going to be trying to basically work your way towards a mutual understanding and agreement of who might have the best poker hand as you iterate towards knowledge and guesswork about what each player has, trying to give them proper clues as to what you might have, so that at the end of it, you can all rank in order who has the best to worst poker hand while having never actually revealed your hand. This is a game about confidence, learning how and where to show confidence, and hopefully knowing just enough stats about poker that your confidence is actually well placed. It's cooperative poker, with no actual winners, no actual losers, but it will hopefully be appealing to anyone who has ever played a round of poker, Texas Hold'em ideally, but in theory, any would work. But that's basically The Gang. That's The Gang. It's going to be the game that's going to work well with anyone who doesn't mind playing with a standard deck of cards. In fact, 99% of this game is a standard deck of cards. There's some things in there that make it more than that. But that's The Gang from Cosmos. My number 2 is Things in Rings. Things in Rings from Allplay is appealing for a variety of reasons. First of all, it has that Dr. Seuss little vibe going on. The things in rings. In this box, there are many things that will fit in rings. The rhyme goes on and onwards. I don't actually know more than the first 2 lyrics, but Things in Rings is from Allplay, and it's a deduction game. It's about trying to find patterns. So again, anyone who appreciates just the logical puzzles will have some degree of appreciation towards Things in Rings because it's basically a logical puzzle. Now, the one downside of this game is you will have to have someone who's running the game, which may not be something that's as familiar to people who don't play games that have someone running it. But the good news is you can be that person, at least for the first game, and then after that, I have found people are often very willing to be someone who runs Things in Rings. People are often willing to jump in, whether they weren't as good as the deduction, whether they just like the idea of having that knowledge and the decision space. There's always someone who's willing to run it. You just might have to do it the first time. In fact, I highly recommend you do it the first time. But Things in Rings is all about deduction. It's all about patterns. You're creating these various Venn diagrams, and then players are placing cards into these Venn diagrams in order to try to find the common denominator of what the thing's place in society is, how it's used, how it's in society and all that, what some sort of attribute of the game is, size, material, things like that. I said game, but I meant thing. And then lastly, something to do with the actual word itself, the meaning or spelling or lettering of the word. And you're trying to find these overlaps as to where things go, but you have to kind of find patterns, make certain assumptions, and then be the first person to get rid of all your cards. It's a delightful game. It has been a hit with everyone who I've played it with. That's going to be Things in Rings, our number 2. Now, our number 3 is actually going to be a combo of games, the first of which is Trio. Trio is a game from Happy Camper that basically is a little bit of memory combined with Go Fish. It's based originally on Nana, which is slightly harder to find, but does have a cutesy, charming theme if you can track it down. But Trio is the more easily available one, and honestly, I kind of personally prefer the look of Trio, but that is not necessarily the most common opinion. But either way, Trio over here is Go Fish combined with a little bit of memory. You're trying to create sets of cards, and to that end, you can look at each player and say, what's your highest or lowest card? Once you do so, you can go ahead and do that to another player, and you can keep going until you find all three, but as soon as you find two different ones, meaning if I ask you your highest card and it's a 12, which is the highest card, and I ask you your highest card and your highest is an 11, then as soon as I've done that, my turn's over, the next person gets to go, but now they have the information of my guesses and all the other previous players' guesses. You're going to try to find a set of, let's say, 3 12s, then 3 anything, and whatever it is. You're trying to find 3 sets of 3. Now, there are some more rules to it, but that's the basic idea of how this game operates, but it is surprisingly compelling. It's one of those games that doesn't look like that much, doesn't sound like that much. You're like, it's basically memory and Go Fish. Why is this fun? But it's one of those games that is constantly fun every time you table it. Now, I mentioned this is a combo of games. That was a pun. You may or may not have known that at the time, but this is Combo. Combo is the newest game from Happy Camper, just came out. I personally prefer Trio, but Combo is going to have some of that accessibility that the gang brought to you because it deals with poker hands. You're trying to create the best shared poker hand. Now, this is not fully cooperative the way the gang is. Rather, in Combo, you just want to score the most points, but you're going to have to work together with others in order to do so. You see, every player is placing 2 cards down on the table, and you're going to work together to find the best 5-card poker hand, sometimes 4 cards, depends on the player count, but you're trying to find the best poker hand, and you're going to look at the cards that are played, and whoever contributed towards that poker hand will score points for their cards, and the other players will not. But that results in a lot of trying to adjust what's happening at the table. Someone might be working their way towards a straight, a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you can pivot towards placing 5 of a kind, or maybe a flush, all of the same suit. You are going to have a little bit of meanness, a little bit of cutthroatness, a little bit of undercutting other players, but both these games are surprisingly compelling and charming, easy to table, and would make both excellent gift additions for you. Before we dive to our number 4, we have a word from our partner, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile currently has a promotion ongoing that is one you should definitely check out. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been using Mint for, I want to say, like nearly 2 years at this point. I started using them before they ever became a sponsor, which is why I'm always happy when they partner with us because I believe in their service. It takes 10 minutes to switch, possibly even less. The first time I switched, well, the only time I switched, it was incredibly easy to do so. They have the nation's largest 5G network, and you will almost certainly save money on their plans, depending, of course, of where you're coming from. Right now, their deal that's currently going until January 2nd involves getting their unlimited plan for half off if you buy an entire year up front. That's $180 before taxes and fees and all that in order to get unlimited service on their network for a full 12 months, which, depending on where you're coming from, is almost certainly saving you money. Make sure to use the link on screen or in the description down below so that they know I sent you. From there, we're going to go to our number 4. Now, our number 4 is for that Lord of the Rings fan in your life. And again, this is also a semi-combo. We'll explain more soon. But we're going to start with Lord of the Rings Duel, the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. The Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth is a 2-player version of the original Seven Wonders Duel. It builds on the framework of what that game did, basically taking a lot of the core concepts of that game, but then tweaking and adjusting it to be in the Lord of the Rings universe. But then the most important part is it does so without compromising on the game. This is a game that I think is equitable in how good it is to Seven Wonders Duel. I think in some ways it's a little better, and I think in some ways it's a little worse, but it doesn't, give you an IP on top of a game slapped on without any thought to it. This is a good testament to the original game and manages to integrate the theme and mechanisms beautifully while still being a fairly accessible game. So if you have that Lord of the Rings fan, that person who likes the Lord of the Rings universe but hasn't really fallen for any of your board game shenanigans quite yet, this might be the game that pulls them over because there is something very thematic about the multiple victory conditions you have in this game of either trying to chase down the ring from either side, whichever side you're on, from trying to gain sway over the nations of Middle-earth to trying to gain absolute control over the various actual areas of Middle-earth. This game is thematic and mechanically sound in the game. Now again, I mentioned this also as a combo. This one's a little bit of an asterisk because the other game I'd recommend, although it's hard to get your hands on it now, in fact you can, it's not technically out till January, but there's going to be the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game is also coming out, which I definitely recommend checking out, especially if you have someone in your life who likes trick-taking games. and likes Lord of the Rings, or likes either of those things, the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game is an excellent game and would also make an excellent gift, but again, reluctantly, it's not technically available. The good news is I still have you covered because I did come to you with our actual number 5 being a trick-taking game for that trick-taking lover in your life. Because For Northwood is an excellent, charming, solo trick-taking game. We all have that one person, whether they're an uncle, a brother, a friend, maybe we don't all have that. I have that one person. Maybe you have that one person too, who is someone who likes trick-taking, but doesn't like board games quite the same way. They might tolerate a board game here and there, but it's trick-taking that's the thing that they have found, like, I don't know, some charm to. They read books on how to play spades, they're in a bridge club somewhere, whatever it is, they're into trick-taking as a genre. For Northwood is an excellent, charming, solo trick-taking game, and the best part about it is those types of personalities often can do very well with solo type puzzles. It's the same person that's playing solitaire on their computer and is happy when they get that cascading little arc. There's some overlap on those personality types, and this will fit both of those. For Northwood gives you solo trick-taking. Now, I should warn you, before we dive into this, I mentioned trick-taking people can be a certain personality, and that does mean sometimes they might be a purist, and this game with cutesy animals, and it's solo trick-taking, which means you can't read the other players and you can't play the people at the table, it may not work for everyone. But there is a lot of charm to For Northwood. I think it is charming. I think it's easy to play. I think it gives you a solo puzzle. It gives you a travel-friendly solo puzzle. It does so all at a reasonable price point. For Northwood would be an excellent gift for most people, and hopefully for that trick-taking person in your life as well. Now, our number 6 over here is Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire, the board game, is arguably the most expensive game we have on this list. And it's not the lightest game we have on this list either, but this is for that video game person in your life, ideally who has played Slay the Spire and who might find themselves pulled in by this. You see, Slay the Spire is based on Slay the Spire, the video game, an incredibly popular video game that is so popular it birthed an entire genre of roguelike deck-building experiences. There are now thousands of games, literally thousands of games, that have tried to replicate the success of Slay the Spire, to varying degrees. Some have done better than others, but Slay the Spire is the original one that took deck-building. It took it from, the board game space to a degree, brought it into the video game space, did an excellent job with it, and it did so well that we got full circle coming back to the board game space with Slay the Spire, the board game. Which again, I think is worth giving to that person who might like Slay the Spire, or even that person who might like video games. There's definitely some overlap to what this game is doing. But Slay the Spire, it does an excellent job being a good testament to the original video game. It manages to encapsulate all the things the video game did well. It does so while also giving you cooperative gameplay. So that person who's been desperately begging you to play Slay the Spire for time and time and time again, and you're like, I hear you, I know you like it, but I'm too busy playing Dominion. Now you can sit down and play Slay the Spire with them. They can go ahead and enjoy the part where they're getting you to play Slay the Spire. You can enjoy the part that you're going to play a board game, and both of you can enjoy the part that you're having fun together. Slay the Spire is going to be our number 6. Before we dive into our number 7, I will note one thing I didn't actually include in the official 10 because I want to show you things, but one thing I did want to include because I think it's worth checking out, this is not a sponsored bit, is a Board Game Arena membership. A Board Game Arena membership is something that, depending on who that person is in your life, could be an excellent gift to giving them access to a lot of different games. Now, you do have to know your audience for this. If they're not someone who's going to use it and log in and play a game online, it may not be for them. But especially if you play games online, and if you're looking for that bonding time, especially if you live remotely from one another, a Board Game Arena membership can be a great opportunity to go ahead and, again, give them access to a variety of games. Some of these games on the table, I'm 90% sure, some of these games on the table, I'm looking at some over the side, are on Board Game Arena. You can play them there. Other games there's going to be tons of games available on Board Game Arena, both solo friendly and multiplayer. Games you can play in real time or simultaneous or asynchronous play, I think the word I'm looking for is asynchronous play. There's a lot of things you can do, but a Board Game Arena membership is another excellent gift idea. With that, we're going to move to our number 7 over here, and our number 7 is leaning into a current fad, one that I have fallen prey to with my daughter recently, which is Lorcana. We have 2 Lorcana things over here. Both of these are excellent ways to dive into Lorcana universe. We have this upside down. We have Lorcana. Let's start with this one. We have the Lorcana Stitch game over here, the Lorcana trading card game, the Stitch gift collection over here. This is going to come with a Stitch binder, so you're going to have a custom themed Stitch binder. It's going to come with a Stitch promo card, and then it's going to come with some more packs of cards. So you're getting all of that. This is just a good gift for someone who's already into Lorcana. Something that might be good for someone who's getting into Lorcana, who needs a little bit, more of a handheld, so to speak, would be a free Lorcana from Ursula's Grass. This is the Illuminator's Quest Deep Trouble. This is a way to play Lorcana cooperatively. If you find yourself getting into Lorcana, if you find anyone in your life like getting into Lorcana and you want a way to dive into it that doesn't involve building the most expensive best deck ever, but instead involves working together, Lorcana diving into this cooperatively to take down Ursula can be a fun way to do so. You can of course buy any kinds of Lorcana options. There's also the Lorcana Gateway set, which is how my daughter did get into Lorcana, so there's merit to that as well. But these are two different kind of extras for that either actual Lorcana fan or potential Lorcana fan in your life. Coming in at number 8, we have a game that's for that puzzle personality in your life, which again, Things and Rings will hit to a certain degree, but The Light in the Mist is another excellent one that I'd recommend. The Light in the Mist is coming to you from Post Curious, and Post Curious has knocked it out of the park with me on almost all of their escape room games. In fact, if you're not that shy about spending money, the Emerald Flame might even be a better gift depending. I specifically chose Light in the Mist, but Emerald Flame is also a great choice, but let's start with Light in the Mist and I'll talk about Emerald Flame after. Post Curious does puzzle games. They give you puzzle experiences that feel premium. I love the Unlock series. I love the Exit series. I think those are excellent ways to get people into escape room games. But I also think those feel a little cheaper. Now, they are a little cheaper, so that's fair. They're priced fairly, they're priced appropriately, but they give you an experience that doesn't feel as premium. The Light in the Mist is a reasonably priced, more premium experience that this is meant to be more solo friendly. You can play with multiple people as well, but it gives you a series of linked puzzles. You're going to have a lot of linked puzzles that, well, not linked puzzles, some are linked, some not. A series of separate puzzles on these tarot cards representing a kind of shared story that you're going through, but each tarot card represents its own little unique challenge in bite-sized little bits. That's a good way to get into escape room games because of the fact that they're separate, because of the fact that each puzzle stands on its own with some disclaimers. You kind of start off at the beginning, you end at the same endpoint, but the rest are kind of in any order you want. It means you could be stuck or stymied on one puzzle and then just jump to another. If one puzzle isn't working for you, just grab another one, try another few sets of cards, and try to figure out if you can work your way through that one instead. And I think that gives it a degree of accessibility, and that combined with the price point is just why I chose this as the featured escape room game in the set. But if you do want to check it out, the Emerald Flame is beautiful. It's a little more expensive. It's generally around $75, $80, so somewhere in that range. But it is absolutely beautiful, meant to be played by multiple players. Again, any of these can be played solo or with multiples. But the Emerald Flame is absolutely beautiful. The table presence is something else. The art, the production, it's the most premium escape room game I've ever played, giving you an experience that is, well, an excellent experience, giving you roughly 7 to 9 hours of gameplay, and for less than the price of you all going to an actual escape room on your own. And you get that in a box. You can break it up across, it's kind of primarily designed to be broken up across 3 arcs, 3 sessions, but those sessions you can also break up into further sessions. There's just like three separate areas of that puzzle to go through. But check out the Emerald Flame as well. That's another excellent choice. My number 9 is So Clover. I chose one of my favorite party games over here, specifically one that, again, there's lots of good party game options out there. Specifically, I chose So Clover because this is also cooperative in what it's doing. It's a party game that's cooperative. Now, there's several out there. There's games like Just One, there's Codenames Duet. There are other cooperative party games, but So Clover to me is one that ends up feeling the most collaborative. Just One is excellent, but it kind of feels like you just, you take your shot and then you're done, you move on to the next card. So Clover, you're going to have players creating, they're kind of forced into an option. You have these clovers, you're going to be placing cards onto these clovers, not by choice, but randomly, and then flipping them over and trying to come up with the common word that links two things. So for example, if you have house and firefighter, what word would you write down that links house and firefighter? There's different options. The one on the back of the box says station. Station, house, and firefighter. I can see that. And so you're trying to find those commonalities, but building them yourselves around this 4-leaf clover. But all players are doing that simultaneously, and when they're all ready, you start working to solve everyone's puzzles cooperatively. Obviously, you don't take in your own puzzle. That would be silly. But if you're playing a 5-player game, then 4 people will be working on your puzzle, trying to work together what they meant, because the cards that were originally there are removed. They don't know the cards that are there. Instead, they're given those 4 cards, plus 1 random card, and then by looking at your commonality words, they have to figure out, okay, well, we have station. Well, what words on these cards relate to station? You're like, oh, firefighter, that clearly works, and you put firefighter down, but what else could be there? Maybe house, maybe something else? They're gonna have to figure that out, but you are working together cooperatively to do so. So Clover is an excellent party game, one of my favorites, and I highly recommend checking it out. Our number 10 over here is going to be one of my favorite gateway games in general. This is a generally good gateway game that has a high visual presence to it, but it also has enough gameplay presence that I find it works well for both that, gateway gamer who doesn't really have an interest in the actual board game mechanics, but also is fun for the person who is trying to win the game. It works well for both, and that's going to be Canvas. Canvas over here, which comes with a few different versions. This might be even the Reflections. I think this is the original box. We have Canvas, there's Canvas Reflections. There's the newest one, Canvas Finishing Touches. There eventually is a big box coming for all of it. But Canvas is a game that has you putting together acrylic cards with clear little art pieces on them to form these visual masterpieces, these visual works of art. In theory. That's not actually what you're trying to do, but that is what a lot of players do tend to do as they try to build together something that looks beautiful in the game. But the actual gameplay is also mechanically satisfying. You see, in each game, you're working towards certain combinations of scoring objectives, and you're trying to figure out, well, which scoring objectives, which cards can I take that will work well together to be able to fulfill multiple scoring criteria in the game. And so I find the game works well because people just love playing with the acrylics and creating something that looks beautiful. Now, some players just do that and don't care about the rules at all. Some players only care about the rules and not caring about what their art looks like. And there's often a middle ground where somebody cares a little bit about what the cards look like, but is also trying to be mindful of how to score points. And they work together to try to find the best combination of, I want my thing to look pretty, but I also know why I'm here, and I also know how I'm going to score points, and they play the game that way. Regardless of which player you are, I find Canvas works for all different players. It is a satisfying game. It's one of those games that when you sit down, if you can get people to listen to you for 2 minutes on how to play this game, they often will find themselves almost wanting to build things out just for the satisfying aspect of, well, building out something visually compelling and appealing. And that's why Canvas would be my number 10 gift recommendation. That is basically your 10 games over here, your 10 gift recommendations. Granted, we have extras. We have Trio and Combo. We have Lord of the Rings and a trick-taking game. We have Light in the Mist and Emerald Flame. We have 2 different Lorcanas. And then to round it off, I also included an 11th option, which is not really a board game, but I do have this cool little set over here. It's not a board game, which is why it's my number 11 over here. But my number 11 is Star Wars Gravitrax. I don't know about you, but I have a kid who loves Star Wars. This is not a board game. This is a Marble Run. This is Ravensburger's Gravitax system, which I don't know if you know about it, but the Gravitax system is basically kind of just a giant marble run. But if you wanted Star Wars on that giant marble run, well, this is your, let me try not to knock too many things over. But this basically is going to give you, this little cool little aspect going on in the game. So if you wanted that Marble Run aspect, but you have that Star Wars fan for you, then Star Wars Gravitax might be another good option. But again, it's not technically a board game, so that's our number 11 pick. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this useful in some way, and as always, I hope you have a good one. And happy holidays too.